Welcome to Leland's Logic. I hope that everyone's week has been a good one. And I'm going to lead tonight's show off with another story. And we will move the follow-up discussion of the Nashville, Tennessee private Christian school shooting to tomorrow. We'll have a special Saturday edition of Leland's Logic. But what has happened? I am sure many of you are wondering. Well, there has been another attack by those in the LGBTQ plus community, and it was at another school again. But before we get into that, I want to just take a stroll back to last year. I want to ensure that I set the tone for what I am going to say. So, the events of this story started in the year 2022. However, I want to give specifics so you understand the journey. Riley Gaines, who was a swimmer over the course of a highly decorated career, Riley Gaines established herself as one of the most dominant swimmers in the history of Tennessee high school athletics, winning 7 state individual championships, and that was out of 8 possible events. Her only loss was finishing second to a future Olympian, and she has set numerous records, folks, and her heavy college recruitment was of no surprise to anyone. And now, due to many factors, she chose the University of Kentucky to attend. And Riley was having an outstanding senior season until an unforeseen and surprising development. An unknown swimmer at the University of Penn was posting shockingly remarkable swim times. This was highly unusual as Ivy League schools had not been recognized for their swimming programs. And this swimmer, Leah Thomas, was a senior. Who was this rising star? Upon further investigation into the situation last year, it was found that Leah Thomas was actually a transgender person who had competed as William Thomas the previous 3 years on the University of Penn's men's swimming team. But now was competing as a woman. As the following weeks passed, so did the controversy. It was as if an alarm was ringing, and I mean an alarm ringing all throughout the women's swim community. The big question was this: is this allowed? If you remember when this all hit the fan and went down last year, there were many who took the "this is not fair" stance. However, this issue slowly became a reality as defenders and activists of this cause used inclusivity as the basis for their reasoning and in truth failed to consider the protection of women's rights. To keep the fairness of this biological competition in sports, this topic was tabled at many levels, local, state, and even nationally, and various institutions and governing bodies weighed in, stating their case. And as the season progressed, as the NCAA swimming championships loomed in March of 2022, the big question was, would this biological male be permitted to compete against biological females? This definitely was a distraction, as the focus of the event would be on a biological male swimming against biological females. Would Leah Thomas be allowed to compete? And the answer came. Disappointing our nation, if not the world, the NCAA had bent to society's woke culture and allowed this travesty to take place. The universal consensus is that they made the incorrect choice. Riley continued to compete and even competed against Leah Thomas in a losing cause. Now, Leah Thomas had won the 500-yard freestyle swimming event, displacing the favored biological female who also was an Olympic qualifier and sadly making NCAA history for all the wrong reasons. The NCAA committee had failed to protect biological female athletes, without a doubt, whose dreams had been shattered by Leah Thomas, a transgender man who qualified for all three events. And listen, this wasn't just losing a swimming race, folks, or a swimming competition at that. This cost three biological females the opportunity to qualify for three Olympic events, as well as it also cost three biological females All-American status. A biological man who says that he identifies as a woman celebrated a victory in a women's swimming competition against biological women. Now, in 2023, most would say that this is old news. I mean, we saw this story and all these different things hit the headlines last year. However, today I will show that this is now a story that is alive and well, and is alive and well right now. As some of you may know, that Riley Gaines has taken this issue very seriously. Riley understands this issue is not about a trans individual. She understands it's about female gender equality. After Riley publicly expressed her opinion on the hypocrisy of the NCAA, guess what? She became a quick source for this topic, as well as a media darling, if you will. She was on numerous talk shows, nationally and abroad. Various women's rights groups reached out to Riley in support and in encouragement. Riley had become a unifying force for all women. Even now, the liberal feminist groups joined with the conservative female organization in support of Riley's issue. Think about that unification that occurred right there. Riley provided testimony to the Kentucky State Legislature that was vital in the passing of Title 83. And what is Title 83? Well, it's a law that prohibits scholastic competition between biological males and biological females. Riley has a new opponent these days, and its name is the NCAA. Riley serves as an ambassador as well as a voice for female athletes who are not able to express themselves. Now, as we all know, last week on Tuesday, March 28th, a private Christian school had a senseless shooting which killed 6 victims. The shooter was a 28-year-old transgender woman who identified as a male. That was last week, wasn't it? Now let's fast forward to last evening. I'm talking about last night. That would be Thursday night. Riley Gaines was given a speech last night at San Francisco State University. Riley Gaines was speaking on saving women's sports. and it was at a Turning Point USA and Leadership Institute event on the campus of San Francisco State University. After her speech, Riley Gaines began to walk and was ambushed and physically assaulted by a male in a dress who hit her several times in the face. Riley Gaines was barricaded in a room for nearly 3 hours following the incident while the police cleared the building, I guess, or made it safe. Now, I heard the statements by the liberal media who last week, CNBC, and who last week quickly slammed Republicans for trying to weaponize the Nashville Christian private school shooting. A transgender advocate in Nashville, Tennessee, told NBC that they were already fearing for their lives. Now, I would say that after last night's incident, the shoe is beginning to look like it fits. I would like to also say that when the President of the United States leads the charge for transgender activists, and as President Biden said, and I quote, "Transgender Americans shape our nation's souls, proudly serving in the military, curing deadly diseases, holding elected office, running thriving businesses, fighting for justice, raising families, and much more." And then the White House Press Secretary, Karen Jean-Pierre, was also eager to express support and solidarity, not with the Christian community, which had just been senselessly attacked with gunfire that killed 6 innocent victims, mind you. Oh no, she was doing this with the trans community. Karen Jean-Pierre stated, and I quote, "It is shameful, it is disturbing, and our hearts go out to those in the trans community as they are under attack right now." And of course, celebrities were no better. This is the state of the American culture right now. This is where we're at. Celebrities, corporate executives, and the overwhelming majority of the media, and are all relentlessly pushing the trans activist rhetoric. This has played out recently in Australia and New Zealand in the same kind of manner, and we've seen how that has transpired. In the United States of America, there is at least a counter to this madness. I mean, the red states, as those that like to call them that, like Florida and Texas, they are upholding parental rights and are putting a stop to many of the excesses of the trans movement. Whether it is drag queens dancing for toddlers or inappropriate materials in school libraries. Listen, parental rights and what children are taught has become a top line issue in this country. And I have a question for you tonight. At what age should a child be free to choose what is best for them? And please share comments, as this is what it is all starting to boil down to, folks. And listen, many who have decision-making powers have a large spectrum of thoughts on this subject, by the way. But one thing that I find very interesting in regards to age of children is the following things. All males at the age of 18 years of age have to do what? Oh, they have to register in order to be drafted if they're needed in wartime. And they can be sent to war. At 18, children can now legally vote, as well as sign contracts, by the way. If they are in high school at age 18, they can call themselves out of school in many states. But they must be 21 years of age in most states to be legal to consume or buy alcohol. And get this, they can't even rent a car. They can't rent a car until they're 25 years old. You have to be 25 years old to rent a car. And to do that, I think what we need to do is to reevaluate things in this country. But that is a conversation for another time. I don't want to get on a rabbit trail. But now, back to the subject of the show and what we're really talking about. My thoughts are, when you kill 6 people, you do not get a say. You don't get a say in who you think you are. I mean, you killed 6 people. Or who you identify as, like in last night's situation at San Francisco State University. Right? Do you remember that? I talked about that. If you are biologically a man and punch a biological woman in the face several times, all because now she has a different point of view than you have, I do not care who you think you are. When it comes to breaking the law and criminal behavior, none of that matters for anybody, no matter who you are. But see, there are those like elected Democrats, celebrities, and dirty rich corporate executives that want to force their beliefs and their ideologies on you and your children, for that matter. And I am going to just say it. It is the parents' right to protect their children from any and all harm, whether it is deadly violence, physical violence, or inappropriate content and indoctrination. There you have it. And listen, there is no reason children should be around drag queens, and there is no reason for drag queens to be around children. Whether there is a story being read or not, children should not be subject to any of that. Period. Children should not be subject to lap dances by a drag queen, a prostitute, or an exotic dancer, or anybody else. That is inappropriate in any circumstance. Period. The end. As a parent, I will make a decision as to what happens with my child. I used to be a parent all day long, and I get to decide what happens in my child's life. I mean, when my children were 17 years old and younger, I was the one deciding what my children saw, experienced, and who they hung around with. I was involved. I was a parent. I also decided what was inappropriate and what was appropriate content and what was considered indoctrination. Not the government, not a teacher, not you or anybody. I did not co-parent with any of those people. I was the father of my children. I assisted their being born, and I am responsible for those children. Anything that happens to them, if there were to be anything that happens to them, you are calling me, as you should. They are my responsibility. Now, with that said, if you are part of a certain group or a group of people, then it is the responsibility of everyone in that particular group to ensure that nobody does anything to make the group feel targeted or to give cause for your group to be questioned or investigated about anything. It is everyone's responsibility in your group to ensure that those in your group are not out in society breaking the law or acting crazy or causing violence or rioting for that matter or burning down the city. That is what should be being said by elected officials, celebrities, and corporate executives. What an impact that would make, wouldn't it? As well as what a change that we would see in this great country of ours. Well, there you have it. Leland's logic. And hey, I will see you where the rubber hits the road.